Hello, hello.
Hello, beautiful. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Cannot complain.
Okay. We just now, everyone's getting set up. Hey, Papa Todd.
Hey, how's everybody? Hey, Rolanda.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Latanya.
How you doing, brother?
It looked like he froze for a second there. They're just waiting for the AV people to set up so they can connect you guys to the big screen. Okay. So I'm gonna
Okay.
mute it for a second. I'm gonna go use the bathroom and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hello, hello. We're gonna get started shortly. There's people starting to fill in, so give us just a moment. Yeah. And we can, yeah, so give us a call specific for that to be thought. Thank you. For the hospitality. Hi. Yeah.
Hmm?
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right.
Everybody's on, so they're just waiting for whenever we can connect.
Okay.
See if I remember how to do it.
Okay.
Otherwise, like our colleague should be here any minute. but
Okay.
Usually I'm running around so much that I don't do it. Do you have one of these, maybe?
Yeah, I had on the other side.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about the delay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is scary shows. Okay, that's plugged in. Okay. There we go. Yep, they can, okay. I wish that they could see the audience. Is there a way? Is there a way, like, if I turn the computer, they can see? Or do I have to turn it that way? Let's see.
Oh, like see the audience.
Yeah,
I think you would have to turn your camera around and maybe set the laptop up here.
the shade. Can you guys see?
Hold on, it just
He's gonna
wiggled
send somebody there.
Okay,
He's gonna send somebody.
okay. No, that's not right.
Well, it just wiggled out. Okay, here we go. We're good.
Right.
And
Okay,
then, the one thing I don't know is if the audio is all connected. But he'll
Okay.
be up shortly. I don't know, you can test it.
okay. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys talk? Let me make sure. I
Yeah.
can-
Yes,
can-
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Test.
All right, let me, is it my microphone? Okay, let's try it one more time, testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing, testing.
Loud and clear.
All right,
All right.
yeah, we probably do need to close the blind. Kim, can you hear us? Is that Kim Johnson? Or is she not on now? Okay, it's Kim Johnson, okay. And Dr. Nettles is not on yet. Hopefully she will be able to get. Oh, that's not sure. Okay. I don't know if Kim is gonna make it. Chanterelle is ill today, and we're still waiting for Dr. Nettles, but we can go ahead and get started if you want.
Okay, got it, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All set. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Yolanda Spencer. Good afternoon. Yes, oh, I'm a lecturer in the African American and Diasporic Studies Department at Xavier University of Louisiana. And I'm also a MFA candidate for Fine Arts at Rochester Institute of Technology. So we're here today to celebrate tea, African American tea culture. And many people always ask me, well, what is that? Well, we took our best shot at finding out what that is, okay? So this is what happened. So I tell this story all the time. This is the creation story for African American tea culture. In 2020, my husband and I started making our own teas. And we were considering starting our own tea brand. And just as a joke, we said, you know what? Let's find out what the most expensive tea is in the world. Let's go on YouTube and find out, right? So we did this, and we found out the most expensive tea, I can't remember the name of it offhand, is over $1 million an ounce. And it is housed in China. So we thought about this, like, what is this about tea that makes it so expensive, so extravagant? But most importantly, how do we do tea, right? we know about British tea culture, we know about Japanese, Korean tea culture, even Rwandan tea culture or Jamaican tea culture. But when it comes to African American tea culture, we were just kind of lost. So me being a researcher and a nerd that I am, I kind of said, well, let me find out. I'm gonna find out. So I did a Google search for the first African American tea ceremony. I found a story. And the story went like this. In New Orleans in the 1800s, February 15th, every year after Valentine's Day, the slave masters would have a tea party. The discarded tea cups would be given to the male slaves and they would distribute them throughout their community, and they would have their own tea in their own day off on February 15th every year. So that's very interesting. It's ritual, right? It's ceremony. But I'm in New Orleans. I teach a class on creolization. I've never heard of this. So I started asking my colleagues. No one had heard of it. So after about 3 months, it really vexed me. Like, what is this? Where did this come from? Come to find out that it was the theme for a tea party in 1995. It wasn't really a tea ceremony. A young woman by the name of Karen Siobhan Robinson in Washington, D.C. was having a tea party and she did not have teaware. So what she did, teaware, she didn't have her. So what she did was she invited everyone, and she's an actress as well. She invited everyone with this theme, so they would bring their own teaware and they would celebrate together. Beautiful thought. What happened was in 1996, Karen Siobhan Robinson had to turn around and write an article for the local newspaper to say this is not actually true. People were angry and people felt like they were lied to. But I thought about this. For people to take it so hard, they had to want to know. And they were disappointed. So now I want to know, right? Now I want to know, is there actually a such thing as an African-American tea ceremony? Is there ritual in the way that African-Americans do tea? What is it when we come here and we talk about people of the diaspora? So what we found in our research, and we traveled the country, we talked to many, many people. I dug into anything that said Black folks in tea. What about it? Let me figure it out. Let's see what's happening with this. So what we came upon were 5 central tenets that were common in our stories that we learned about African-American tea culture. The first was spirit, the spiritual aspect of tea in African-American communities. The second is the medicinal and wellness aspect of tea in African-American communities. We have community building in African-American communities. We have a special section set aside for the men in African-American community, and finally, artistic expression in African-American communities. If you guys want to click on the QR code, you can take a look at the exhibit lookbook so you'll get a sense of what the exhibition is all about. I don't want to talk too much about it because we have our esteemed panelists here. These are some of the people that I first interviewed when I started doing the research on African-American tea culture. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened with Dr. Nettles, but I know Chantrell Edwards is ill today, so she's not able to participate, but we have Reverend Anthony Todd Jackson and LaTonya Coakley here from Adjourn Tea Room. Baba Todd is what I call him, and he's at the House of Spiritual Purpose in Houston, Texas. So we traveled across every region capturing these stories of African-American tea culture. And the thing that was so interesting about this for me as a researcher as a professor is when I began, I teach in social justice or justice studies, however you want to call it. And I've worked for a very long time with formerly incarcerated population. And it got to the point for me that the trauma that we kept reliving and talking about these stories was actually starting to affect me physically and mentally. When I started doing this research, in my 20 years of doing research, this is the first time I had stories from African Americans that were all beautiful. No oppressive narratives, no connection to slave culture, no ugliness around it. When I talk to these people, they smile. When I talk to their people, they open their homes to me and my husband. We just called and said, hey, you want to talk to us? You know, what do you think? And some said no, but many said yes. And I like to include the people that I originally talked to because they have really immersed themselves in the culture and they have something to add. Baba Todd uses teas and medicinal herbs in his spiritual practices. Latonia Coakley is the owner of Adjourn Tea Room in Lanham, Maryland. And her focus and what I really thought was interesting and why I like to invite her is because she talks about resting for Black women. Just this concept of rest is mind-blowing because it seems like such a simple thing, but to build it into your practice and into your work every day is a beautiful thing, okay? So in essence, to wrap that up, what do we call African-American tea culture? It's a collective of these things that we found: spirit, medicine, wellness, community, that we use to heal, that we use to heal as a community, okay? And my very last thing before I turn it over, one fun fact that I learned about African-American tea culture. Who knows what the first act of civil disobedience was before what we know as the civil rights movement? Not the, nope, that's not the one I'm talking about. A collective action by African Americans. It was the desegregation of tea rooms in Los Angeles. Yes, it was 1947 through 1949. African Americans worked together, affluent African Americans worked together to sue the Bullock's Tea Room in I-Magnin in Los Angeles during that time. Now, what was so interesting about this is that, again, you have affluent African Americans, but this was the first time you saw a group of African Americans using their money to move legislation, to move policy. And that's why this is so powerful. This is why it's so important. Tea rooms in particular served as a place for like a sounding board for civil rights planning, civil action, as a place sometimes just to get away. They didn't really sell tea. They sold a lot of things, but they didn't necessarily sell tea, but it was called a tea room or a tea house. And all of these things, when we look at them and how we celebrated in African-American communities, it just turns out to be something very beautiful. And that's why I chose to make it an art exhibit rather than just me telling you a story. You have to see it with your eyes. Okay, so I would really love for this discussion to be a discussion, not a lecture. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the panel. And if you guys have any questions for me, for your panelists, let's talk about African-American tea culture. Yes.
So there was a lawsuit,
Mm-hmm.
and what, do you remember what the name of the suit was?
The name of the suit?
Yes.
It was, I forgot the
You could
name.
look it up.
Yeah, well, actually, I have the photos in the exhibit. So,
Where is the exhibit?
The exact exhibit is in the Skyline.
The exhibit, you're in the Skyline Room, but down behind Center is where the exhibit is hanging currently. And that's in the main area on the first floor. So you'll be able to watch, see the exhibit hanging and see all that information.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, sorry, did you?
No, just one last thing. I'm gonna be passing around a signage, so that we can contact you. Other than that, enjoy.
The AV people are coming to make the sound better and clearer for everyone. Ooh, yeah, just a second.
Oh, someone in this room is gonna talk. This is just the mic.
They're on this.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
like if anyone was gonna try to respond to anyone on that side.
Okay.
So this is on as well.
All
And
right.
if they just talk, it'll be picked up on both.
Okay, perfect.
But if somebody here wants to talk, or
Okay.
if you're just talking, they can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Everyone can hear us on the other end? Okay.
All right. Okay, so before we open it up for questions, I will, I'm going to start off with Latonia, since we talked about rest and wellness for African-American women. Can you talk to us a little bit about your practice, Latonia, and how you got
Sure.
these tea spaces?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, y'all. Can you hear me, Rolanda? Everyone can hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Hey, y'all. I'm Latonia Coakley again, and I'm the founder and CEO of Adjourn Tea House. I consider myself to be less of an herbalist and more of a creative wellness practitioner. So I actually started Adjourn Tea House in 2019 as an ode and in memory of my parents. I lost both my parents to cancer in my 20s. And so one of the things that I realized was that they're very beautiful, simple, sustainable self-care practices that I can implement to help me feel better, to help me with the grief, and to help me recenter. And I started to make my sorority sisters sit down and have tea with me because I'm like, I can do this myself, right? This is something that I have access to. I can research and learn about herbs and things that taste and feel good. And so I began part of my community practice. I consider it to be a pause practice. My community pause practice is just having tea and saving space, holding space for us, specifically women, specifically Black women, to discuss and to be in a safe space without judgment and resting together. So one of the things, literally adjourn, when we think about a meeting being adjourned, a lot of times we can come back. If court is adjourned, this case isn't over. We can come back to that. And so part of the principle and ethos behind my brand is that we all have a lot to do, right? There are moments throughout the day that we can pause intentionally, even if they're 2 or 3 minutes, to give time back to ourselves, to recenter, and then also to resist some of the capitalistic, individualistic, white supremacist approaches to how we do things. And that's just embedded in our culture. It's been in our culture for a while. And so part of what I've decided to do with my time on this planet is make teas that are so good and so good for you that you are almost forced into a pause. You're forced to breathe. You're forced to tell your friends, girl, hold on a second. This tea is so good. I'm going to relax. And I grew up in Virginia, so iced tea and tea culture down south is a big deal. Part of what my parents would do on Sundays, we called everything that was hot tea. If we had hot chocolate, that was tea. If it was hot apple juice, that was tea. And so it's always been a part of, the space that I hold for myself. And it's been beautiful to take this sort of experiment and really a fight for my joy and carving a space in the world for me that makes sense. It's been really beautiful to be seen by Rolanda. Thank you, Dr. Spencer, and also to be able to tell you more about my story.
All right, thank you so much, Latonia. Now, what was interesting about what she said is that everything hot, they call it. That's African American tea culture. If it is brewed and it is not coffee or soup, it is tea, okay?
Yes.
So when we talk about tea in the more, in the larger sense, we're talking about tea leaves, green tea, black tea, white tea, so on and so forth. In the African American community, the herbs that came out the most in our interviews were lavender, hibiscus, chamomile, right? Different things like that. But who can guess what the first tea is that, I'm gonna say about 90% of our interviewees said they had first?
Sassafras, rooibos,
No,
Earl Grey.
no. The hot toddy. But everybody had that experience that they think the first tea was a hot toddy. Mama Todd, you said that yourself to me, right? And so we were talking, Mama Todd, tell us a little bit about the hot toddy.
Oh yeah, we
How-
had quite a few when we were sick growing up. Having a hot toddy was still tea.
Baba Todd?
Hey, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon where y'all at. Yeah. My first experience, my mother was from Mississippi and my father was from Texas. So I was fortunate enough to, visit a lot in Mississippi and in Texas, but we live mostly in Texas. But there was always that thing of if you had a cough or sneeze, them old folks was gonna give you a hot toddy. So, and it was to help you sleep at night. So that was sort of my first introduction to I guess you would say tea. I really didn't drink tea as a child. I didn't like tea. But everybody in my family, everybody around me drank tea. And I guess on the spiritual journey, when I look at tea, well, let me go back. I prescribe teas to people that come to me with spiritual ailments. I believe that anything that is ailing you physically, there is something at the root of it spiritually. And I look at Genesis 9, even God said, I give you the green plant, which is tea. And uh, out of the hoodoo tradition is where a lot of the healing with teas and herbalists, we call them root workers down south. And those were the people that would prescribe, go out in the backyard, look at a particular plant, know what the properties of it, and come in and then prescribe a tea for that individual to drink. Because everything has spirit. The plants have spirit. I've been exposed to elders that talk to their plants, and they say they talk back. I've never heard them talk back, but that they could communicate spiritually. So just the whole essence of a green plant, you boiling it in water and it transforming you mentally and physically. So that is kind of where I am in that's a quick synopsis. Is that what you needed, Yolanda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Baba Todd. But yeah, so we found that with spirit and wellness, they often converge, right? So spiritual wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, all of those things are a part of the practice. So when we talk about the spirituality in African American tea culture, they're often combined with the wealth in terms of how it is produced. But we also talk about ritual and ceremony. Oftentimes, tea, like no other drink, is, regardless of the culture, is built around ceremony a lot of times, right? Built around ritual. If you go to Asian tea houses, those ceremonies can become very expensive, right? They can become very taxing. However, it still creates an honor, right? To have tea with someone. If someone is inviting you out for tea, it's not anything aggressive, right? We don't hear about shootouts at tea parties or, getting into fights and arguments, because the idea in and of itself and how we prepare it is ritual, right? So when you talk about African American tea ceremonies, I had Kim Johnson was not able to be here today, but she told me about a tea ceremony that her church has. And what they do each year is everyone brings their own teacup and they trade it with another person in their congregation. So every time they pick up that teacup when they get home, they're supposed to say a prayer for that person. And I thought that was a really beautiful show of spirit and community all together, and wellness, right? Because it's still medicinal herbs. So when you, I'm gonna go back to Latonia. When you look at rituals around tea, do you notice in your tea house that people do tea a particular way? Do they have to like prepare a lot of times?
Absolutely. That's a good question. And the introduction was just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing because that teacup story was so gorgeous to me. But yeah, so particularly within the rituals that I share from my own practice, one being an event that I host called the Slow Pour. So when I started the business, I got a lot of requests for tea parties with fascinators and the gloves and the frilly dress. And, you know, I thought it was so dope. I love that people enjoy doing those types of things, but that is not true to me. That's super inauthentic. I'm on my porch in a black caftan. Like it's not going to be me to show up that way, right? So I thought to myself, what are some rituals that I found successful in my own journey. And prior to this, I was an educator and school leader. So even some of the rituals that I was able to institute at work, what can I bring to the community, practice in community with them so that they then can take some of these rituals and practices home and hopefully, you know, introduce more pause into their daily lives. So I created an event called the Slow Pour that I host a few times a month in my city, Atlanta, Maryland. And so that event comprises a tea meditation with music and humming by Black women. That also includes a 4 to 5 blend tea tasting. And then at the end, part of my work as a creative wellness practitioner is to engage in play. So some of my most beautiful creative blends are just me with the music on, dancing in my studio space, playing with herbs and spices. And so I teach them how to introduce more play with herbs, spices, fruits, and roots, and all the cutesy things that I put into my teas. I introduce that too. So part of the ritual that I've been hoping to expose, and I think I've been doing this for about a year and a half or so, to our community is the act of intentional pause, um, introducing more play. What I know as an educator and as a teacher who taught other teachers is that at some point in our journey, play becomes less important to adults. In actuality, it should be more important. This is where we should be expanding on some of that. When we have decided to let go of the play, what do we replace that joy with? Not with work for most people, not even necessarily with mother and fatherhood, because that is also, it's a lot of work, right? They're going to be joyful moments, but what about the joy within us? And so that's what I've been experimenting with, showing that, doing it in community. And I guess, you know, some of the feedback that I've enjoyed was I have a tea corner at home. Oh, I decided to take my tea in the bathroom in the morning when my kids are getting ready. So I now have a pause every day. Or every week I do a porch practice, which I'm doing right now, which happens to be in community with you. I have my iced tea. I'm pausing outside with you in community. So just I guess overall, Rolanda, what's really been important for me is to show people, especially from communities that I come from. And I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a first generation college student. My family doesn't have it like that. So if that's the case, then I'm not booking massages every week. I'm not getting my nails and hair done. These ideas of capitalism and self-care don't apply to me. But making a cup of tea can. And you know what? My husband is from Jamaica, and one of the most beautiful things, which was hard for me to tolerate the bitterness of the herb, but his grandmother would bring back bush. And I asked her, so where do you get it from? She was like, it just grows in my yard. And how cool is that? How cool is that? Back to Reverend Todd talking about things that we can do and that we have indigenously had access to. How cool is that to be like, I'm bringing my granddaughter-in-law some bush, even though it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I'm more of the tasty tea drinker. I haven't gotten down to the bitter herbs yet.
All right, thank you for that, Antonia. One thing that you mentioned was, the tea parties, because whenever we talk about tea culture, everyone wants to know about the tea party, right? So What we know about tea parties, or what we found, is that the most, I guess, activity around tea parties began during the Harlem Renaissance, around the 1920s. And, for obvious reason, it was post-slavery, some people, some African Americans were coming into society, or what they created as society, right? In Harlem, artists, things like that, so they began to have their own tea parties. In particular, Alelia Walker, Madam C.J. Walker's daughter, had a space called, it was a saloon called the Dark Night. Okay, and this is where they had their private and afternoon tea parties. You had people like Ivy Wells, people like Langston Hughes that would have these private tea parties for artists and different things like that. But we see the tea parties moving into like the 1950s, and it became a thing of affluence, right? It became a thing of society to have tea parties at your home. If you did not have tea parties at your home, they did attempt something like a tea party at church, right? So they would have these special tea parties at churches, for teachers, for social workers, different things like that. So it wasn't what we would consider a tea party with the white gloves and, the doilies and so on and so forth. It would just be people communing over tea. But what we also find is that there is an era of elitism in that practice, right? We had several stories, especially coming out of Brownsville, Miami, that suggested that certain populations of even African Americans could not attend these tea parties if they were not a part of society. So it gets a little tricky around that, right? But this idea of a tea party is spread throughout community regardless of affluence. One thing that I thought was very interesting were these pink tea parties that they talked about in Los Angeles and Miami. So the women of society would get together every year. Their annual fundraiser was a pink tea party. When I say pink, I mean pink, everything in it was pink. The food was pink, the tablecloths were pink, the tea was pink, and it wasn't really tea, it was a frappe because it was more sugar and something else to make it pink, okay? So these pink tea parties were very popular in Los Angeles and Miami, and the women would get together and compete on who had the best pink decor. Sometimes they would change it up, it might be purple, it might be rainbow, but whatever it was, imagine Desperate Housewives in the 1950s, right? This grab at society, this black grab at affluence, this grab at opulence, because that's another word that we hear a lot when we're talking about African American culture, was something very interesting to note. When I was talking about Todd, about how he experienced women in tea culture, he told me a very interesting story about his little sister. Do you remember that about Todd? The story about his sister? Can you tell the group here that story?
I was in high school and I remember one year, my parents had, I think it was for Christmas, had bought my sister a little table and tea set. And every now and then I would pass by her room and she would have it set up and she would have her dolls in one chair and she would actually have serving everybody tea. And sometimes I would have to be a participant. And so she would, I would be sitting there, just imagine a high school in a little girl's chair at the table, along with a teddy bear and Cabbage Patch dolls. But her whole thing was pouring everybody tea, and she actually had a full-blown conversation. And it reminds me of just people getting together and having a corporate, I like to say a corporate prayer, a corporate meditation, corporate therapy. And when I think of tea, what do we have? We have water, we have a herb that you put into to the water, and then you express yourself verbally. You know, normally when I give somebody a tea or I give them a prescription, this is what we do. We take that water, we put that herb in it. Before you drink it, you know, there's always the blowing, cooling off. You take that spoon and you go counterclockwise. See, it's all about a ritual. That's all, you know, even then, my little sister was doing a ritual. And I know sometimes when we hear that word, we get scared, but you're doing rituals every day. But in this case, you're taking the tea and the water. The water is a powerful element of nature that can transform. Then you take a herb that has a spirit and that have life. You put it in the tea, you stir it with your cup, and as you're stirring it, you're speaking to the water. You know, I've had people that just needed some clarity about some things. You take some lavender, you take some chamomile, something to calm you down, and you speak to your situation. You have a full-blown conversation. So if you need to set up a table and put a teddy bear there, if you need to get you some dolls, whatever the case may be, it's about mental health. And that's what, you know, I took from my little sister to this day, having a conversation. And you speak to that tea and that water, and then you drink it. And you will be surprised in the transformation, how spirit moves. It will bring you clarity. It will calm you down. It will bring you some peace. And it also may reveal some things to you. So, you know, that's one of the things I kind of took from my baby sister when she had her tea parties, is that you can speak to that water and that tea for your particular situation.
One thing that I thought was, thank you, Baba Ty. One thing that I also thought was interesting about that story, or whenever you see young girls of any culture have their own tea party, they dress up, right? They put on a lot of jewelry. They might wear a tiara or a crown. They get in mom's closet and get the high heels and everything. Because when I listen to this, especially listening to Baba Ty and knowing how with little Black girls, sometimes they don't always have all of the stuff, but they make it work, right? What they're trying to do is ascend, right? In spirit, in mind, I am valuable, I'm rich, I'm beautiful, right? All around, I'm going to set up with my dolls a tea party, and I will become all of those things. That's how tea becomes a conduit in the community. So it's not lost on me that different cultures would embrace tea as we did. What was lost on me is why we never really looked at it ourselves. It was very, very difficult to find not only the people that we're talking to today, but it was hard to find information about it. And we've been doing this for 3 years now, and we're still collecting information. We're still learning about it. But what we're pretty sure of is that tea, when we use it for wellness, when we use it for spirit, when we use it for community, we ascend. So that's really why and how I see this, okay? Are there any questions for our panelists or myself? Yes.
Can you just repeat a young lady's name and name of her shop, I think it is?
Latonia Coakley. And her name, you can see if you can see it up there. Oh, okay. Latonia. Last name Coakley, Cokley. And her tea room is called Adjourn Tea Room. Adjourn, ADJOURN.
Okay, it's like you adjourned.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Yes, well, we know that there is Rwandan tea culture and then Senegalese tea culture where they have more tea ceremonies. and it's called an, please correct me if I'm wrong, a tapa? Is that what it's called for the Senegalese tea ceremony? I think it's called an atapa, Ataafa. I think that's what it's called. But yes, but it is not similar to African American tea culture, except for the communal aspect, like sharing tea and things like that. I think that when you look at African American tea culture, it is born or it's an amalgamation of British tea culture, capitalism, right? African American culture and a tinge of Asian tea culture. So it's just a hodgepodge of all of these things. Would you guys agree or? Okay. I don't think we can.
Did the sound go down?
Written the book? I am in the process of writing the book now. We've shown this exhibit a year ago, was our first time showing it, and it was in person at Xavier University in New Orleans, in July. This is an abridged version of the exhibit, the photo exhibit. The full exhibit is a multimedia exhibit with artifacts, photos, sculptures, and things like that. But yes, I'm writing a book, and everything that that we have talked about, and more than what's in your lookbook will be the book. But on our Instagram, we'll start taking pre-orders in September for the book. So please check us out on IG if you can. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. What's the name of his house again? House of Spiritual Purpose.
Rolanda, I apologize. I didn't get the information to you, but we have gone through a name change. We are called we are the International Church of Health and Wealth here in Houston, Texas.
There you go. Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else? Yes.
Now, Baba Todd said, when you started tea, it's counterclockwise. What is the significance?
The significance of that is that tradition comes out of the Congo. And it is they did that in representative of the sun rising and setting. It's 4 different stages. And you know, in most of our Pentecostal churches, when I guess the processional of the church, they always do things counterclockwise. And so that is a part of that ancestral DNA, which comes out of the Congo. Those, I don't know, I'm not familiar with voodoo, but those ceremonies that I saw, they were counterclockwise. Those ceremonies that I saw in Ifa with the drumming, the people did it counterclockwise. So it's just something ancestrally in our DNA to do it counterclockwise.
Anyone else? If there are no other questions, we have some tea over there for everyone if you'd like to have some. But thank you guys so much for coming first. I want to thank Kay Michelle and Susanna, who set all of this up. Out, inviting all of us out to talk to you guys in Philly here today. I really appreciate you all coming out. We weren't sure what the turnout would be. Oh, yes.
I have a question. The contact, the places, is there some place we can go to find them? Is that going to be on the driver's side or?
Yeah, I think it's that, set up. I'll get the information from Yolanda.
Okay.
And set it up. I just wanted to say 2 things before we guys break for our tea and everything. First of all, thank you very much, Yolanda, Dr. Spencer, and her team. I really appreciate everything put together. As I said, our exhibit person, Superior Minska, please go downstairs to the Heinz Center where the exhibit is staged up there. And also our culinary department has Chef Tony for the food, and Yolanda's tea is there as well. And then one little thing, and forgive me, but If everyone, I understand there's a birthday for someone. Surprise, if I'm not mistaken,
93 years old. Jeanette Scott Silverton. School teacher, 50 years. Martha Washington, elementary school, 35 years of the 50, right there in West Philadelphia, 45th and Aspen.
Yeah, be honest, you and glad
Thank
you
you very much. Thank you so much.
1,
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, for checking in. Everybody give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, and we will have everybody's information for you guys before you leave.
Can you just tell us what floor goes down?
Oh, so you're on the main floor?
Oh, it's on the main.
Yes, it's all behind it, and it'll be hanging right there. This is long table with people there, but on both sides.
Okay, I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes just in case anybody wants to come to the front and talk to Babatata, Latonia. Is that okay? All right, while they're having tea. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. I loved talking with you and hearing from you. Thank you so much. It was really great. Appreciate it.
Awesome. You're so welcome. Thank you. Enjoy your tea in the exhibit.
I need 3 cups of coffee right I think it's the kind of person who I like that idea. That's a great question. Because I had to put that down. I'm like, there's no reason to get it there. Yeah. Wait, I'll go like that was really good. I got a lot of stuff aside.
Sister Latoya,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to get with you on some of those teas.
Hey, let me know. Send me an address. I'll send you some stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm gonna shoot you. You know, I'm gonna put it in the text.
Okay, that
I'll
sounds
put it in the
good.
text. All right.
Okay,
Take care of
that
yourself.
sounds good. You
All right.
too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. It's not because it's that's the thing that you forget, like, I'm there. You have to work like.
Oh, what teas do you have there? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I forgot to put the lady, but I did a chance to. Okay. We have a biscuit. We have, red roses. We have peppercorn. Yeah, mugwort, chamomile, lemongrass, and peppermint.
I'm so glad it was a nice turnout.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So I hope you enjoy it.
Oh,
And go downstairs to see the exhibit and everything. All right.
Thank
All right, thank you. All right, there you go. Yeah, you can just open it up, scoop it out.
Yeah, like every time.
Oh, thank you. They'll have time.
It's in the part where we. Exactly, so maybe that's, like I said, maybe that's why.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Tony and I live in food. I just want everybody to know that there are cucumber and dill sandwiches. And for the chicken, it is a lemon and herb mix, cornbread, and then we have biscuits. On your table, you have some peach preserve, so you can add it on top of your cornbread or biscuit if you like.
You think your husband probably went to sleep? No, I know they didn't go to sleep. He's probably downstairs. Yeah, I thought he was right. I was like, okay. Yeah, and I didn't. Oh, that's another picture that I want. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think they're kind of like me. I'm
Oh, but you didn't want if you working out. Yeah, they go around and go out into. Check it out, check it out.
No, it's fun.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Wherever we can see.
Thank you so much. A lot of them or downstairs.
I like those bookmarks. I can always use bookmarks. I just put 25 bookmarks. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that opens up the exhibit book, right, to go to. Yeah, okay, great. So they'll part. No, art, that's what I was. And so we think, it was the reason why we started. No. Did you take it? No, I have another one, but. Can we turn? Okay, this way? Yes. And she'll, okay, this is the paparazzi. Okay, so this way. Right. First, yes. No. Right here. Okay. 93. All right, and then I'm gonna get out and then. Yes. Good. Look that way, Mom. Yes. All right. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Okay. Please get in. Yes, please. More the merrier. This is a surprise tea party for Mom. Yes, this worked out. And it's Baltimore. That's where my sister is. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was what a day. What a day. And then we'll know about the wheelchair and services. Yeah. We'll see more of us. Oh, exactly. Okay, and there's some more. Yes, I know that.
Tomorrow, that's close enough, Leo. I'm today. It's a pleasure to share this virtual platform. Right. Oh, this is a nice place to be on. I'm sure you know. I love anything that is cultural and ritual. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm down. Down. Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, you were from.
Wanted to see things that I'm sure you have an internet presence.
Yeah. If you click on that, that's okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks for
We're gonna take a picture together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want her to.
I'm not. They got, it has to be right. It gotta be right.
Do you know long side? Long side is from back in the day, the barbecue.
Yes. Yes. They were in South Carolina. They were, Orangeburg. Orangeburg, that's the name of the spot. Right, so apricots. Wow.
You make you make tea?
Yeah, I did my dad for a while.
So what kind of tea do you like? Yeah, I mean,
It's good, but my dad put like oil, or else it'll burn, it doesn't taste good. So now they're picky. Yeah.
Everybody else.
I love it.
Make sure you-
My grandma, she was made that. She was like.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
She like make people make them at like nighttime. So like when tea, it's good to like cooler. I didn't recognize that when I was younger. I sound like I did.
Yeah.
She was like really. I was surprised. Then as I got older, I got. I tried to do something. Like some of the stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But like when you're talking about something.
Yeah, well, we just talking about like the idea about the all this like reform to impact right now. So you
Throw it back.
so you can be yeah, so you can get less work possible. But then some of them was like
Right. Right.
you know what I mean? So for me, I'm trying to get more into that. Ideas. Yeah. So I think I'm trying to get into that concept, slowing down a little bit. Even if that's like limitations. So I don't know all the kids out there. Yeah, but
Sometimes you
I don't know. I like.
but you like this right.
Yeah, but I saw.
There are good friends, if you go to the Marine Terminal, they have an herb store, and they actually have bags, like the different tea bag that you can put that in.
Okay, yeah, kind of weird. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'm definitely. Yeah, this is way more than what I thought.
Oh, really?
I thought it was gonna be like say she's gonna leave out and just be all right, cool. Yeah.
Mom has always said, once a year, the family goes together and we go to the tea. Rittenhouse is our favorite. Rittenhouse Hotel. You're gonna pay, so it's step one of. Mom's 93, we've been doing it for about 35, 40 years. Family, no argument. Because you can't argue.
That's it. Yeah.
Rittenhouse, sports, there's one in Lansdowne, Tea House. Travel up, resort, go beyond. And you learn different stories. See, that's what the hard part.
Yeah.
See, as far as one person told us I tea, but right before I tea. Around the mantelpiece, you do the people. So you will down on the mantelpiece. Now, see, so you're picking towards.
Like I did see that, so I didn't think take it to some. Yeah, exactly. So that. Herbal, I got you. So it's different.
I'm going to say, and the whole
Like you're trying to kind of start like going down. Yeah. So it's like a nice break, tea, you can sip on it. Yeah, sometimes I'll have like a night time before I go down.
Not today, but
Yeah, I seen some, yeah.
I have like, I usually do sleep, so I have like, not this, but like something. Yeah. So it is, people that have like, they have a kettle and then they put it in a teapot and then they have like, and they have like.
You could, yeah. You could. Did you have a tea party? Like a solo never.
I like them, but I like the exchanging bugs.
That was good too.
yeah.
Yeah, I would like pray for somebody else. That personal connection piece. Like that actually. That is something. Yeah. Reason always is like that's a I think tea. Yeah, like actually love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, and then everybody was well, she had, right, we had a meal there. She said, I think she might have that. And I've seen it in my
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. I try to come, but it's hard. It's tough. And then also, yeah, so like I took off work today. Yeah. Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah. Right, which is always there. Yeah, right. It's like going through the day. You elaborate like this. Okay, yeah. I saw something. It was a year. Wait, there's like email came out. All the staff. I didn't read too much. I didn't know.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. When I saw that email.
And did you get one of these? This big, yeah.
Oh my God. I got stuck in the elevator, water washed. Was being a friend from the location. There was a parking.
Oh,
Right there, brought in Toronto. I'm holding a TV, scissors holding stereo equipment, but with the port. So this elevator. And I was like, you know, reminded me. So it was a whoop that came. And I just said. That's what I started getting off, and then I tell you, so
It's only,
that's when it turned. Y'all.